Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, December 13th, 2019, the WNW 414. Impeachment all the time, or I should say unconstitutional impeachment all the time. They finally settled on two articles of impeachment. Neither is constitutional, so it's unconstitutional: abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Now, Jonathan Turley, the legal expert, came in and said, you really can't obstruct Congress when you're going to courts to settle a dispute between the House of Representatives and the executive branch. All these branches, the executive branch, the legislative branch, that's the House and the Senate, and the judicial, that's the Supreme Court, are all co-equal branches of government. And the judicial branch, when there's a real upset, usually usually a legal question, acts as a referee. So a lot of Democrats are really feeling weird about this. I mean, we started with the Mueller report. That was the whole Russia collusion hoax, and the president is a Russian agent. I've got a cold, so I'm going to cough a little bit. I'm not going to start over every time. And that didn't work out. The Mueller report was a dud. The collusion, the Russian collusion, a total hoax. And there's going to be penalties for that. I'll talk to you about that in just a minute. And then we go into this impeachment. So they're trying it again with this whistleblower that doesn't have to testify. It's totally unfair. They lay the whole thing out in writing as unfair. The press is, what? Nothing about it. And, they're going to vote. They're going to vote before Christmas on impeaching the president. I don't think he'll get convicted in the Senate at all. And I don't know, I still don't know if they actually have the votes. Pelosi saying, I'm not going to whip up the votes. I want members to vote their conscience. I don't know. Does she want it to fail? Does she think it will fail? Does she already just smugly have the votes already? I mean, there's going to be more than last time. Two, when they were voting for the impeachment inquiry, two Democrats said, no, I'm not down with this. And I can't imagine, with the falling polls for this impeachment, and not just falling polls for Democrats. There are Democrats that are very shaky about this. But really, the falling polls are for the 40% in the middle, the independent voter. That's going terrible for them. And so, this is something that's going awful. You can't look at it any other way other than that it's going awful for the Democrats. Do they have the votes? Yeah, they have the votes to do it. If they don't lose 15, 16, 17 votes, something like that, all they need is 217, 218 to pass it. But boy, can you imagine passing with 218 or 219 or 220 votes, and a dozen Democrats say, hey, no. So I don't know. I think it's desperation. I think all this about the Mueller report and the insurance policy and the crossfire hurricane, which they say was nonpartisan, but they named it a crossfire hurricane to go after somebody, to put somebody in a crossfire hurricane so they don't know what hit them when they knock them out of office. So, I mean, I don't know. It just looks to me that the Democrats are and the deep staters are desperate to stay out of jail. They don't care how many felonies they have to commit. They don't care how fair the proceedings are. I think it's desperation time, really. Desperation time. And then you have this IG report, Horowitz, Inspector General for the DOJ, comes out. And, they made a big deal out of how he said it wasn't partisan. Of course, clearly it was a partisan. And Barr's statement on that, I mean, this is very unusual. IG report comes out, and William Barr, the Attorney General, says, FBI launched an intrusive investigation of a U.S. president campaign, and then later, after he was sworn in, on the thinnest of suspicions that, in my view, were insufficient to justify the steps taken. And then they kept surveilling him. After they had exculpatory evidence, after he became president, they just kept trying to do anything they could to try to get some dirt on him and frame him. And so we have the IG report that comes out, and Barr refutes the idea that it was properly laid out. And then he also refuted the idea that it wasn't partisan. And many people say, oh, come on, it wasn't partisan. Please stop. But maybe that was about the IG trying to look fair. But the IG report, at least the the parts that I have read and seen and excerpts and all, it's devastating. Crimes were committed. Whether it was partisan or not, that's like, shooting somebody and say, well, it's a hate crime. Well, did you shoot him and kill him? Yeah. Well, you still shot and killed him. I mean, there is devastating information from the IG about the malfeasance, about the abuse of the FISA process, about them fraudulently applying for spy warrants. One reporter from NBC, this dope, he's sitting in front of Barr and says, now, do you still think they were spying on the president? How stupid do you have to be? FISA is the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. And you go to the FISA court to surveil people. That'd be spying on them. And the media now is in this idea where they're just like, surprised. Everybody's acting surprised when all of this is propaganda, and they've been caught not covering the biggest story of the country, the biggest political scandal in the history of America. And then, and I know there's a lot of people out there saying, oh, there's not going to be any charges, and nobody's going to go to jail, and they'll just fry a few little fish. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. Not by listening to Prosecutor Durham, which is Barr's right-hand, top prosecutor, William Barr, the Attorney General. And not when you see stuff like this come out in the Washington Post. Eric Holder, they brought the biggest of big guns out. Eric Holder, and he says, William Barr, this is his quote, and I put the quotes right, unfit to be Attorney General. He's unfit to be in that office. Barr says, nakedly partisan and so deeply inappropriate for America's chief law enforcement officer. Then he takes a shot at Prosecutor Durham. Anyone in Durham's shoes would do well to remember that in dealing with this administration, many reputations have been irrevocably lost. Then he called the president lawless. Excuse me. That's rich coming from Eric Holder, of Fast and Furious fame, where they gave 2,000 guns to Mexican drug cartels, and one of our border agents, Brian Terry, was killed with one of those guns. They were giving him reportedly AK-47s, 50 caliber sniper rifles, with a round that long, handguns, and then he held up Congress to give them information on how this and what this was all about. He was held in criminally and civilly held in contempt of Congress. And I think this thing just settled, and I don't think they ever did get all the information out about Fast and Furious, and that's just one of many, many things that Eric Holder was involved in. That's a big black eye for Holder. I'll be talking to Kevin Shipp, the former CIA officer, intelligence officer, counterintelligence officer. He's an expert in that. Also, a real live whistleblower. He, of course, wrote this book, From the Company of Shadows, which he talks about the deep state. He despises them, and of course, they despise him. And but he'll be the early Sunday release, and there's plenty to talk about with what's going on, and some of the stuff that the analysis that he gives is really unbelievable. It's what's going on in the country is absolutely outrageous. And listen, if the economy does fall out of bed, I think the Democrats should get majorly blamed for it. Not just because of impeachment. That's just an extenuation of all the ways they're trying to knock the president out of office, and how basically uncivil and unjust and crazy the Democrats are to do anything they can to save their hide, and they need to knock Donald Trump out of office to do it. And it's, you start with the Mueller investigation and the deep state, all that, and you got that, this special prosecutor involved, drug us through the mud for almost 2 years on that, and then we got this impeachment thing. We've been drugged through the mud on this. All the name calling, all the things going, all the totally partisan rhetoric, the way the country is being run is absolutely I've never seen before in the history of me doing news or the history of the country. I don't think it's never been this way. Maybe back in the Civil War when we actually had a Civil War. I don't know. And meanwhile, they do have time to find yet another way to screw us over. Congress does, and here's the latest thing they voted on. House approves farm worker amnesty. They got 3 dozen Republicans to vote yes on this. Promotes visa workers over Americans. This is HR 5038 would likely give amnesty to more than 1 million illegal aliens and also subsidizes foreign companies that hire more H-2A visa workers instead of hiring Americans. Can you believe that? This only 1 million illegal aliens would get citizenship? Oh, right. Only 1 million. That wouldn't be abused. And I'm just doing this to dovetail into USMCA. The president says that, that's a great thing. You're going to love it. I don't think so, Mr. President. You call the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, one of the worst trade deals in history, and yet the same people worked on the TPP are some of the same people that worked on USMCA. And listen, it will undermine U.S. sovereignty and labor law and immigration law. We turn these over to unelected international bodies, and it will integrate U.S., Canada, and Mexico into one trading economic bloc. That's like New World Order stuff. And the Senate can't even vote on this. They can't change it. So tell your senators to vote no. It's a done deal in the House, I think. I don't think there's no changing it in the House. I mean, the Democrats got it. We made it better. I mean, they brought in things for transgender and gender issues that are in this trade bill. Again, we give away a lot of sovereignty. They can change the USMCA without putting it through Congress. Whenever they decide to get to a little something they want to change, they can change it. It's just really a little freakish. And I'm hoping the senators will vote no, or I certainly don't hope that they break into it and make it even worse than it already is. I mean, my senator from North Carolina, my two senators, Burr and Tillis, they would love to give more jobs to illegal aliens. They actually hate Americans. They're Republicans. And so, I mean, Tillis, he never opens his mouth without talking about a job for a foreigner. So, but I think the Senate should vote it down. I mean, the Senate can't even change it. They can vote it yes or no, up or down. I don't know. I want to talk to you a little bit about this. We've been following this repo thing for a while. Massive, huge, largest ever. Fed will flood market with a gargantuan $500 billion in liquidity to avoid year-end repo crisis. Now, not all the $500 billion will be put into action in the repo market for the end of the year. This thing goes, but it will be over by the 14th or 15th of January. And remember, they're dumping $500 billion into the market in the next month, $500 billion. Isn't it funny? They won't give Trump $5 billion for a wall, but they're going to dump $500 billion into the repo market while the $60 billion a month is going on. So $60 billion for this month, December. This is going to go into January, $60 billion for January. An unbelievable amount of money being spent for an economy that's supposed to be doing great. And why won't somebody in the mainstream media, the financial news channels, somebody somewhere asked the question, what's wrong? Something is very wrong with the economy and the banks and the money and our economic system if they have to dump this kind of money into the system to keep it from imploding. I suspect if they don't do it, the whole thing crashes down. Which is probably the reason why the wealthy are hoarding gold, physical gold. This came from Schiff Gold. Peter Schiff spotted this in an investment paper from Goldman. Good catch, Peter Schiff. I'm in the note published over the weekend. Goldman recommended diversifying long-term bond holdings with gold, citing fear-driven demand for the yellow metal, political uncertainty and recession fears as a catalyst for the move towards gold. Political uncertainty and recession fears as the catalyst for the move towards gold. Hedge funds and big banks are already reportedly buying lots of gold. And that's why I say if this whole economy falls out of bed, if this thing really gets into big trouble, I'm going to blame the Democrats, at least in large part, because the scams they pulled on the president, the cheating to get this whole investigation started, which the Attorney General says it was started on the thinnest of margins. In other words, they shouldn't have started it. If you listen to Clapper, he said Obama told us to have the intelligence assessment. So in other words, Clapper said this twice, that it's Obama's fault. And I think this goes all the way up to the White House. This is a grand plan to get rid of Donald Trump because they want to take over America. And he interrupted their plans of taking over America and getting people to knuckle under and evacuating, money out of the country. Now that you have the UN threatening the United States, telling the United States, you got to pay your reparations towards, poorer countries for climate change. They want us to pay for all that with our gross domestic product and jobs and any money. They want us to pay for all that. I mean, they're still honest for that. They're mad. This is why people say Donald Trump's, a New World Order show. I don't think so. I mean, he did push this USMCA, and I don't know how the Democrats doctored it up. And I think it's a loss of sovereignty at the very least. Once this thing's signed over, we lose a chunk of our sovereignty on labor and immigration. There's no doubt about that. So I just think that it's if the economy goes under, the Democrats should be blamed for all this impeachment deal, this scam of impeachment, the Mueller report for 2 years, undermining the rule of law with the unconstitutional impeachment thing. I just think it's horrible. I mean, really. And then we're getting something done. This whole thing about wealthy people buying gold is the real deal, folks. A friend of mine years and years ago, I bought a house in a fairly tony neighborhood, but it was a repo. That was the only way I could afford it. It was a repossessed house, and so I bought it from the VA. It was a nice house, but one of my well-to-do neighbors who built his house in the neighborhood came to me one time, and he said, "Well, I'd like to play golf with you or something like that, but I have to run down and pay my taxes." I said, "You have to run down to the tax office and pay your taxes?" Yeah. I said, "Don't you escrow your taxes?" He says, "Rich people don't do that. Rich people don't have people save their money for them." Oh my gosh. And I, at that point, started looking at what rich people did to see if I could be more like rich people in my little, blue collar way. And so I stopped escrowing my taxes once I got 20% loan to value on my loan, right? So I just paid it. I didn't have people save my money for me. And why am I telling you this? Because if rich people and people who handle the money for rich people are telling them to diversify into gold, and I know gold's expensive, and you can substitute for little people like us, gold to silver, you should be doing the same thing rich people are doing. That's what you should be doing. The same thing that wealthy people are doing in your own little small way, and you can always buy an ounce of silver every month. That's what is that right now? It's $20 with commission. And so I wanted to say one other thing too that is might be a destabilizing factor. It looks like Boris Johnson in the UK won, the Tories, which is the Republicans, won in a landslide, a monster vote, which was really, according to the British press and most other press, it was about deciding Brexit, how Great Britain could leave the EU to regain control of their immigration policies, with their export policies, with their taxing policies, their labor policies, to leave the European Union, which I think is failing anyway. Now there's even rumors that France is having big problems, big financial problems. They'd like to have their currency back. And that's the thing that the UK did. Britain never got rid of the pound sterling. They never ditched their currency. This is why they can make this transition much easier than the folks in any other European country, whether it's Ireland or France or Spain or Germany or any other country. They're all using euros. And so, but Boris Johnson won, and they're going to get a Brexit. Now, the only question is, what kind are we going to get? What's it look like? Do they actually cut the ties with the EU and negotiate equitable trade agreements, or is the EU still going to have their claws into them? Is Boris Johnson going to let them have their claws into them? I don't think so. I know one thing: they're not going to. The UK is not going to pay the EU $39 billion to leave, and then the EU still had control over them. I don't think that deal is going to go. And so we shall see how that works. But that is another thing that could be destabilizing. And I want to just end with this. And it's how they try to control you. I mean, my wife and I were talking, says, a few years ago, before Donald Trump, there were people who didn't want to say Merry Christmas. They still don't like to say it in New York City, which is crazy. But they didn't want to say Merry Christmas. You felt bad. I don't want to say Merry Christmas. I always said Merry Christmas. But there are some people who just, got kowtowed into Happy Holidays. And so I wanted to bring this up about how they try to beat you into submission and make you believe what they believe. It's like Caitlyn Jenner. They want me to believe that that's a woman, even though I know that's the 1968 Olympic men's decathlon winner. If Caitlyn wants to wear a dress and high heels and makeup and grow his hair long, that's fine with me. I don't care. But don't expect me to play along. I'm not playing along with that. You could do it, have at it. No problem. But here's something here that a student at a university law school, after posting "okay to be white" flyers, law student kicked out of school. Now, the police say the former student at Oklahoma City University School of Law, which I would never send my kid to law school there because they're a bunch of social, a Democrat, New World Order, social justice wackos. The City University Law School does not pose any physical threat to the campus. So here's a guy posting it's okay to be white, and he doesn't pose any threat to the campus. Actually, he was kicked out of school in October. But he came back on school and posted some more of these okay to be white. Well, the involved student has been expelled. They didn't name him, incidentally. Has been expelled for violating the terms of their suspension. So they didn't arrest him for trespassing, but they violated him for coming back on campus. I don't think so. I think they violated him. They kicked him out of school for good because he hung a sign saying it's okay to be white. Can you imagine that? If somebody hung a sign saying, "Hey man, it's okay to be black." Okay, fine. Hey, it's okay to be Hispanic. Okay, fine. Hey, it's okay to be Chinese. I don't care. It's okay to be Dutch. Cool. It's okay to be a Muslim. Fine. It's okay to be Christian. Oh, good. So, I mean, I wouldn't care, but okay to be white? He said it was okay to be white. That we're not supposed to think that it's okay to be white anymore, which is absurd. I mean, it's okay to be anything you want to be. But this guy gets kicked out of law school, no less. See, I think this is an end run around the First Amendment. That's what I think. I'd be surprised if this doesn't get brought up in a court case where he sues the law school for a First Amendment breach. That he's putting up, you could put, when I was in college and still today, you put flyers up all over the place for parties and for selling stuff and for all kinds of stuff. You put flyers for rental houses, roommates, you put flyers up all over campus. But it's okay to be white. And even the dean, this dope, Dean Jim Roth, that he says exclusion and hate will not be tolerated. This shop tolerated. Exclusion and hate. It's okay to be white is exclusion and hate? Thought shaping. And we'll punish you if you dare speak out. And again, as I said, student not arrested for trespassing. So they say he was kicked out for trespassing. Sure wasn't charged with that, wasn't arrested for it. But the real deal is he was kicked out because he simply put up a poster saying, it's okay to be white. Thank you very much for your donations. Really appreciate it, especially in this era of them, taking away monetization and giving it back to me after 30 or 40,000 views. And the monetization they give me is, 5-minute, 10-minute commercials. Just so you know, when you're fully monetized, you get a 20-second non-skippable ad or a 30-second skippable ad. And when they demonetize you, you either get no commercials or you get really long commercials. Some of you are watching the commercials. I can't tell you to do that. But, and thank you, that helps me. But I really appreciate your donations and your support through this time. I'm sorry, I'm coughing. The USA Watchdog is a pretty big site. And if I have to, I'll get a player somewhere and I'll still broadcast on usawatchdog.com. Now, listen, you guys on YouTube, just so you know, you got to keep, a lot of people on YouTube don't even realize I have a site on usawatchdog.com. And it gets just about the same amount of views on YouTube as I do on usawatchdog.com. They don't count towards YouTube's totals. And I don't get advertising, at least right now, on the site. I'm supposed to, but for some glitch, some reason I don't. So why am I telling you this? Because if I'm ever deplatformed off of YouTube, you can always find me on usawatchdog.com. All I would need is a player. I don't need to build a channel and start flocking people to a channel and all that. No, I'm just going to direct you to usawatchdog.com, which is why I have that join button. I have the join button up there because I want people to, I want to be able to contact people. I don't sell my list. Once in a while, I put out a promotion for Discount Gold and Silver, my only sponsor, and that hasn't been for months. She hasn't been wanting to give any kind of promotional deal, and then or any kind of deal, advertising deal. I don't get paid on that either. I don't get a piece of the action. I just do it for her because she's a good sponsor, and I never get complaints from Melody Cedarstrom and Discount Gold and Silver Trading. Okay, she doesn't rip people off. And then also I send out promotional stuff, like I'm going to have, maybe Martin Armstrong. I'm going to try to get Martin Armstrong. But I'm going to have somebody on, or I'm going to be doing something special. I'm going to be doing, so I haven't done that for a while. For you people that have signed up and said, I don't have anything, maybe it's broke. It's been months. But the main reason I have that, if I ever get to your platform, you can bet you I'll be sending out emails to you to tell you what's going on. So if you can, please hit that join button. I don't spam people. I don't sell my list. I've never sold my list. So if you can, go up to the top of the page, right in the middle of the page, it says join. It'll open up. Same thing with Greg's private messages. That's really the same thing. And so if you could do that, we could stay in contact if I'm ever deplatformed off of YouTube. I hope I'm not. Actually, I mostly like YouTube. I don't like the gamesmanship. A lot of the stuff is just AI. They don't even know what's happening most of the time. When they say it's been demonetized, an AI robot has listened to my piece, and then when it gets looked at again, another different AI robot looks at the piece, and then sometimes they give you a lot of times they give you the monetization back, but after 30 or 40,000 views have elapsed with no monetization. But anyway, I digress. I want to tell you I appreciate your comments on the site, on YouTube, and on usawatchdog.com. I really appreciate all your interaction and involvement on both the YouTube channel and the usawatchdog.com site. I really appreciate it. And the one thing I want to get in there, I really want to get this in. Oh, I want to tell you one other thing. So some lady writes me. I'm not going to give her name. She's 75 years old. She's still working. She had some awful medical problems. She said, I'm still working, and it's a pretty good job. I'm still working, and I just want to let you know that I, in part, due to you, capital letters underlined, I became a Christian 5 years ago. 75-year-old lady 5 years ago became a Christian. That was fabulous news to me. And I'm not a preacher. I'm not an expert on the Bible. I am a sinner. I'm not better than you, not by a long shot. But I do think that God is part of this story. And so I always have a little reminder, especially at the end of the weekly news wrap-up, about what's really important in this world. And so without, and as I close the show, as I close it all the time, and I just want you to be, I don't want you to be fearful. I want you to be informed. I know this can be pretty fearful stuff, but all I'm aiming for is for you to be informed. If you're informed, you'll be less fearful. So with all that said, fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all spiritually. Fear not. God the Father, His Son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit are all firmly in control. If you don't believe me, look it up in Matthew 28:18. There is no clearer Bible verse in the Bible than Matthew 28:18. The devil is not in control. Thank you very much for supporting usawatchdog.com.